Today's session will be recorded and posted to our Living Well Wednesday webpage, along with additional resources. You will be able to find all future and past programs on our website as well. We do want to acknowledge that KSRE is an equal opportunity employer. Therefore, we do not discriminate against anyone. So if there is a special request or concern that you need to allow for you to attend our programs, please reach out to us. We want to thank our presenter for joining us today. My friend Donna Gershner is a CDRR grant coordinator and e-cig prevention grant coordinator for Live Well Finney County Health Coalition. Donna has been the driving force in passing the Clean Indoor Air Ordinance, Tobacco 21, tobacco-free playgrounds and parks in Finney County. She received her tobacco treatment specialist certification from KU and established and works closely with the Resist Group in Garden City, Kansas. And with that, I will turn it over to Donna.
Thank you, Jennifer. First, I'd like to let you kind of know a little bit about myself. The picture that you see up on the screen is a group of students that are involved in Resist from all across Southwest Kansas. We had a training that day at the college and we decided to take a group picture. So as you see, there's many different kids from all over, and it was a great day of learning for us whenever we met together here this last spring. In 1994, I started my adventure with tobacco education with the first chronic disease risk reduction grant in Finney County. At that time, I was a recreation professional at Garden City Recreation Commission. The health department had contacted us because they had lost a staff member and needed someone to coordinate the grant. So we looked at it, and it equally targeted physical activity, nutrition, and tobacco. And I thought, you know, I could probably handle this. So we took it on. Then later on, the master settlement happened with the tobacco companies, and it changed the CDRR grant to be highly focused on tobacco. But by that time, I was hooked, no pun intended. I wasn't hooked on tobacco. I was hooked on educating about tobacco. So that's why I decided to do that. Since then, I've retired from recreation, and I did that in 2014. And at that time, the health department wanted me to continue my work with the tobacco, and they asked if I could do it at Live Well Finney County. That way I could stay with my Capers retirement. And that is where I am today, part-time here at Live Well. I have now completed the tobacco treatment specialist training through KU Med, where I'm certified to counsel on tobacco cessation. And that training also helped me be a better educator on tobacco and vaping. Anyway, today, I would like to thank you all for allowing me to spend some time with you today to talk about why it's not cool to Juul.
Smoking among American young people is at historic lows, but the number of children using electronic cigarettes has increased. The government estimates the number is 2 million. Although e-cigarettes deliver nicotine, many teens mistakenly believe there are no serious health risks. And since newer devices look like computer thumb drives, it's harder for educators to detect them. That has led to worries about e-cigarettes in schools, including the most popular one, Juul. Special correspondent Kavitha Cardozo, with our partner Education Week, visited a school in Milford, Connecticut, where the principal is trying to change the behavior. It's part of our weekly series, Making the Grade.
A lot of Juuls that remain in...
Fran Thompson, the principal of Jonathan Law High School, opens what he calls his vaping drawer.
These are some of the items that we confiscated this week.
The items are all e-cigarettes. The most popular brand by far is called Juul.
This is a Juul. I know it looks like a flash drive, right? So the liquid goes in here,
Basically, they're devices that heat up a liquid, often nicotine, and you inhale the vapor.
And then they smoke it, they vape it.
Kids can hide them anywhere.
Their socks, their backpacks, their pockets, their wallets, their bras, back pockets, everywhere.
Anywhere, yeah. Because they're so small.
Students Zane Burks and Emma Hudd say that's part of Juul's popularity.
It's a lot easier than smoking a cigarette or drinking. People do it in class all the time, and kids like that it's sneaky and that they're getting away with it, because it gives you that, like, rebellion.
Are you really writing about Christopher Columbus? I have athletes doing it. I have honors kids doing it. There's absolutely no stereotype in terms of the spectrum of who would be doing this.
That makes this school in Milford, Connecticut, typical. Juuling, as it's called, has spiked all over the country among youth. But unlike alcohol or cigarettes, often parents aren't even sure what it is. Parent Liz Goodwin has 2 teenagers in the school. She found nicotine liquid pods in their pockets while she was doing laundry.
When I found the pods, I Googled it and looked for it, and I couldn't find anything. I just had a photo of it and tried to describe it, and what is this? And then I saw the amount of nicotine. It's the equivalent of 1 pack of cigarettes. I also understood some of my adult friends used e-cigarettes as a way of getting off of smoking. So I didn't know how dangerous it was.
I'll show you what was going on.
Principal Thompson says his aha moment was in the bathroom.
So your typical high school bathroom, right?
Brings back memories.
Just like watching Grease, right? But what was happening was you might have 5 or 6 kids hanging out in here with the door closed and vaping.
Teacher said groups of students were gone for more than 20-25 minutes at a time.
I had boys wrestling in the bathrooms. I had girls setting up little tent cities in the bathroom so they could hang out and then come back totally lost because they missed that instructional time and really unfocused because they were buzzed from the vaping.
It was hard to know for certain, though, because there are no obvious signs. There's very little smoke and no characteristic cigarette smell.
You really can't tell. Like, how do I know it's not a Bath & Body Works perfume that they spray that smells like mango?
Suchitra Krishnan Saran runs the Yale Tobacco Centers of Regulatory Science at Yale University. She says the flavors are a big part of e-cigarettes' popularity. They sound playful and harmless. Mango, mint, cotton candy, blueberry pie.
These products come in over 7,000 different flavors, and they can also mix and match to create their own, which again introduces a sense of novelty.
But the vapors inhaled have been found to contain lead, zinc, chromium, and nickel. And Krishnan Saran says nicotine, the main liquid in these devices, is extremely addictive and can cause memory and attention loss, especially in the developing teenage brain.
There's something about nicotine that the teen brain is not only more sensitive to it, but it also leads to greater use of other substances like cocaine, marijuana.
Juuls were created as a way to help adult smokers stop smoking. Krishnan Saran says there's not a lot of research available, but e-cigarettes do contain fewer toxic chemicals than a regular cigarette. But she says that doesn't mean they're safe for kids. In fact, a big misconception is most kids think they're inhaling water vapor.
No, definitely not. It is not water vapor, and I think that is a message that needs to be delivered very clearly to youth. There are chemicals in these e-liquids. You are vaporizing the chemicals and you are inhaling them.
Principal Thompson felt he couldn't punish students for vaping because they didn't understand why it was wrong. So he started educating them.
These are all the chemicals that can be found in one single cigarette.
Janelle Jesse with St. Vincent's Medical Center has spoken to more than 16,000 students from all over Connecticut this year.
I asked the question, raise your hand if you know someone your own age that smokes cigarettes. Very rare do I get more than 5. And then I asked the same question, do you know someone your own age that uses a Juul or a vape? Almost every single hand goes up from a 5th grade classroom all the way up to a 12th grade classroom.
Students Morgan Macy and Anthony Mendez say images on social media spread quickly.
You see the younger celebrities, they're holding a Juul in their hand, and everyone on Snapchat will like post videos of them juuling. They just find it as a way to be cool.
There's a lot of tricks. There's like smoke bubbles, kind of like do a ring around and then a bigger ring. It's different kinds of tricks that they do with it online.
So Jessie gives them information and answers questions. She even has a session for their teachers.
So where do you put the fluid? Why do you need power?
So it's
I
empty.
know nothing about this.
So
I think not having these Juuls and this industry regulated by federal and also state officials is outrageous.
I'll tell you straight up, this is one of our top concerns right now.
Scott Gottlieb is the commissioner of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. He says while e-cigarettes can be used by adults to stop smoking, it can't be done at the expense of children.
If all we do is end up hooking a whole generation of young people on nicotine by making these products available, we won't have done a service from a public health standpoint. And so we need to be very aggressive in trying to take steps to crack down and prevent the youth use of these products.
The FDA is being sued by several organizations that are challenging Gottlieb's decision to allow e-cigarettes to remain on the market until 2022 without regulatory review. Gottlieb says they needed time to set comprehensive standards for all these products, not just Juul.
We also can't be in a position where we're playing whack-a-mole, where we're just going after one particular product and don't have in place rules that address the overall category.
The FDA has requested internal research from e-cigarette companies, including why these products are so popular with kids. They're conducting a national undercover blitz to stop stores from selling to youth. And this fall, the FDA will roll out their first ever comprehensive public health campaign about e-cigarettes.
Vaping can deliver nicotine to your brain, reprogramming you to crave more and more.
In a statement, Juul says they cannot be more emphatic. No young person or non-nicotine user should ever try Juul. The company has pledged $30 million for their own education and prevention efforts.
wait, that's right here.
Despite how proactive this school is about educating students against e-cigarette use, students say Juuls are still extremely common. None of these 4 students say they vaped, but they don't hesitate.
If I asked you to get me a Juul right now, how long do you think it would take you?
3 minutes.
5 minutes or less.
5 minutes or less, yeah.
Don't even know how to get one.
Just ask.
Principal Thompson knows this.
It's always going to be ketchup. It's always going to be reactionary. So you do the best you can, I think.
But he says it's critical to keep educating kids about the risks.
I consider vaping to be the next health epidemic for teenagers, and I believe in my heart that this is going to have long-term effects not dissimilar to smoking and cancer.
For the PBS NewsHour and Education Week, I'm Kavitha Cardoza in Milford, Connecticut.
And one additional note, in June, voters in San Francisco overwhelmingly backed a measure to ban the sale of flavored tobacco products, including vaping liquids. It is considered the strictest in the nation.
Okay, this is still happening in our own state, just as what is going on in this particular video. The age, however,
What is
has
vaping
changed to
do to the
21.
body? Is it bad? And if so, how
we got
bad?
going on here?
And how does it compare?
Okay. The age has changed to 21, but this has not stopped the usage. They are now using throwaway vapes called puff bars instead of so much Juul. So anyway, the next slide we got here is youth tobacco use in Kansas. I wanted to show you this particular slide so you could see what is going on in our state. First, 1 in 7 high school students in Kansas reported they use some type of tobacco, and a third of those use 2 or more products. Now, 9 out of 10 people started smoking by the age of 18, so that's not good. So how can we help them on this? Well, flavor is one way. And 9 out of 10, when they first used an e-cigarette or a vape, it was a flavor product, okay? Next slide, please. Okay. 4.6 youth use regular cigarettes, and 17.2% have tried regular cigs. And over 1/3 of all high school students, or 34.2%, have tried e-cigs, and 14.4% are regular users of e-cigs. So why do they use e-cigs? friends or family members use it. Available flavors, they're less harmful than other forms of tobacco. And we still don't know the long-term effects of e-cigs at this time. Next slide, please. So something that I wanted to look at, let's talk about youth vaping and mental health. We have found that there's definitely a correlation. More than half, 60.4% of students that use e-cigs on a regular basis have reported symptoms of depression. 29.1% of Kansas high school students who have never used report symptoms of depression. So you see there's a huge difference on those that are using and those that do not. And some of the most common flavors that are out there, and you can see why that they want to use these e-cigs, because it definitely tries to hook them, is fruit, menthol, and mint. Cigarette companies are trying to negotiate and allow for menthol. What we're trying to do is get rid of all the flavors, but what they're trying to do is throw a carrot and say, well, we'll just do menthol. Well, menthol is one of their popular flavors. Therefore, they're definitely targeting youth demographics, as the tobacco companies have always targeted different demographics, particularly. Next slide. Okay, let's talk about suicidal behavior. 42.5% more than likely will self-harm, and 42% plan on it, and 37.5% will attempt. So you see, it's really scary that folks are using these vapes because it causes suicidal behavior. Students that use e-cigs are more likely to use alcohol and marijuana than those that have never used e-cigs. So there's a definite correlation, and 8 out of 10 have reported substance abuse. Next slide, please. Okay, what's in an e-cig? Look at all these different chemicals. As you'll see, there's all kinds of chemicals, lots of poison, lots of metals, and it's scary. Most of these I can't even pronounce. So why would you want to put that kind of thing in your body? Next slide, please. And that's just the aerosol. Okay, where can you find these chemicals? And you're going to have to click through as we go, because I think, yeah, there we go. Propylene glycol, you can find that in antifreeze. And oftentimes that's also found in winterizing plumbing systems. Next. Acetone, that's found in nail polish remover as a paint thinner. And ethyl benzene, you find that in products such as pesticides, synthetic rubber, varnishes, paints, and inks. Formaldehyde based solutions are also used in embalming to disinfect and temporarily preserve human and animal remains. And nicotine, maybe the most important ingredient here is nicotine. Nicotine is a drug that's highly addictive in moderate doses and is the reason why smokers smoke even when they start getting sick. Of course, in high doses, it's poison. In fact, plants make it to keep insects from eating them. It's a funny drug that has a lot of effects, but mostly it's an upper. Rubidium. It is a chemical that can be used to give fireworks their bright colors. And these are the things that's going into your body from these aerosols. So e-cig clouds are not just water vapor. Next slide, please. It's an aerosol. It's not vapor. E-cigarette vape pens allow the user to make large clouds that many think are just water vapor. In reality, the cloud is a mixture of many different chemicals that were either present in the e-liquid before or produced during the heating process. A vapor is a chemical that is evaporated. What is an aerosol? Well, an aerosol is a mixture of liquid particles suspended in gas and contain many chemicals. Instead of just mixing with air like pure gas, aerosols can leave drops behind. So what I always like to tell people, when I'm talking about vapor and aerosols, a vapor just dissipates and goes away and there's no residual left. But an aerosol, think of hairspray. What's it do? It sticks, it stays, it doesn't go away when you spray it on your hair. That's its purpose. So that's a good example to explain what an aerosol is when you're talking to young people. Next. Okay. You may be familiar with the concept of secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke is smoke from burning tobacco products such as cigarettes, cigars, pipes, and is toxic when inhaled. Although it is not yet known whether secondhand smoke from e-cig devices is harmful, the evidence to show that third-hand smoke is dangerous to others is there. Third-hand smoke is chemicals in e-cig vapor, aerosol that remain on surfaces, and in dust, even after the vapor and the aerosol are gone. Next slide. Okay. Third-hand smoke. Well, we're talking about third-hand smoke. And this is a really good example of this, where somebody is vaping in the area and they leave, and then all the chemicals are there. They remain on the surface and in dust, and even after the vapor and aerosol are gone, and react with other chemicals in the environment to form toxic chemicals that are re-released into the environment. These are potentially harmful chemicals and can be exposed to other people or animals through the respiratory system, even though there's nobody in the room vaping or smoking. Through ingestions and through skin exposure is how that they receive these chemicals. Small children are especially at risk for third-hand smoke exposure because they always put everything in their mouth, their hands, everything, and they have very vulnerable skin. Next slide. So why are we worried about e-cigs or vaping with our high school students? Well, here's some good examples. These are from 2018 slides. And here's somebody that a patient's death is possibly the first in the US related to vaping. Teen lung diseases linked to vaping in Minnesota. 22 people have been hospitalized with vaping-linked breathing problems. College students' lung collapses after smoking Juul pods. Like I was having a heart attack. These are just some of the headlines that came out in 2018. Next slide. So nicotine and brain risks. Nicotine harms the part of the brain that controls attention, learning, mood, and impulse control. It harms brain development, and brains are not fully developed until around the age 25. What I like to tell students is that it dumbs you down. So why would you ever want to do this? Because you could have been maybe a genius and you've been vaping. So sometimes they're like, oh, I didn't know that. So anyway, next slide. Here's some of the popular vape products owned by tobacco giants. Blue is owned by Kool. Juul is owned by Marlboro. And the next one is Abuse, and it's owned by Camel. Next slide, please. Okay. I think that's a different slide, or maybe it comes up differently. Youth tobacco use in the US. Can you go to the next slide? Next slide, please. Okay, here we go. 2020 National Youth Tobacco Survey, 1.8 million fewer users since last year, and 3.6 million has increased since 2011. Youth cigarette use has been trending upward since 2011, and the real steep increase was from 2017 to 2018. Well, let me explain why that happened then. Because in 2015 was when the e-cigarette really hit the market in the United States. And then came along Juul. And it started flooding the market, and there were influencers that were involved in that. So that's why it really increased tremendously from 2017 to 2019. Despite the slight decrease in the amount of teens who use e-cigarette from 2019 to 2020, still 3.6 million teens currently use vape. And unsurprisingly, they're the most commonly used tobacco product among teens, and they have been since 2014. The rapid decrease in the amount of teens who use e-cigarettes is scary. Next slide, please. Teens who use vape are 4 times more likely to start smoking cigarettes. What's even more concerning is that they're using all kinds of tobacco products. Next. Okay, you can't really know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. This is from Maya Angelou. Let's take a look at how we got here. Next. Okay, from 2000, we had 28% of teens smoking, okay? And you see that every 2 years they have a chart up, 22.5 in 2002. Then let's jump over to 2009, it was 17.2. And then all the way to 2017, we were down to 7.6 of youth smoking rate. 73% decrease in smoking among youth from 2000 to 2017. We were doing awesome with the smoking. But what happened? Next slide. What happened was the tobacco companies, they realized what was going on. Some of the reason why smoking rate had decreased is due to people quitting, people dying, and young people not starting. That means big tobacco loses money. And we know that does not make them happy. Next slide. So, in their own words, in the tobacco company's words, younger adult smokers are the only source of replacement smokers. If younger adults turn away from smoking, the industry must decline, just as a population which does not give birth will eventually dwindle. There's the proof. In their own words, younger adult smokers are their only source of replacement smokers. Next slide. Tobacco is the only product that, when used as intended, will kill half of its users. That is crazy that we allow this product out there to be used because it kills half their users. Any other product out there, we would not allow it to be, but yet we're still allowing smoking and tobacco. Next slide. Big tobacco needs you, as in youth, young people, to become their replacement. And if the smoking continues at the current rate among U.S. youth, 5.6 million of today's Americans younger than 18 of age are expected to die prematurely from smoking-related illnesses. They view them as a replacement, nothing more, nothing less. The bright side is they are literally cannot survive without young people. So what is an industry to do when sales are dropping? Hop on to the latest trend of nicotine addiction, which is e-cigarettes. Next slide. And this is a look at the new nicotine addiction. Check out where their product placement is. It's right by the candy. Everybody's wanting a piece of the action. There's so many different vapes out there now. It's crazy. Next slide, please. Yeah, it's coming up slow. The Vuse is a new one. The Mark 10 and the Blue. From big tobacco companies like RJ Reynolds, also the maker of Newport Cigs, Altria, Marlboro, Imperial, Kool, and Salem. Next slide, please. And they're creating products that appeal to young people, such as this inhaler, so they can hide it, obviously. A vape-looking fob, And there's a hoodie with the strings are vape strings. That's just crazy. It's just so obvious who they're targeting. And they're doing it so people can hide it. I've seen some that look like watches. And I'll show you a couple here. This is called, I don't know if you can see this. This is the Enjoy. And then we also have this one, and I'm sure you know what that looks like. Of course, it's a music device. And this is an elf bar. Here's another one. So they look like things that you would put in your purse that you would keep for doing your makeup and that sort of thing. So it's pretty crazy. Okay, next slide. Okay, they also create products that appeal to the youth. These are some of the flavors. Candy King. The majority of the users, when they first started using vape, they used a flavored, and we can flip the next one. And these are what you called juice. Okay, as of January 8th, 2020, Kansas has identified 23 hospitalized cases, including 2 deaths related to Ebola outbreak. In the U.S., according to CDC, June 15th, 2023, there have been 68 deaths from vaping in the United States, with 2,800 hospitalizations. Most of these cases were among teens and young adults. Next slide, please. Ingestion of 50 to 60 milligrams of nicotine is lethal to adult who weighs 150 pounds. Next slide. So, how can we help these students or young adults? Well, let's get them involved in something. Let's give them the tools. And how can they quit? There's all different sort of ways, all different things. So, next slide. One thing that we can do is we can pass an ordinance to restrict access. And that is something that we did in Garden City. We passed an ordinance to protect its youth in 2017. And then we went and did it in Holcomb the spring of 2018. And then Finney County passed it for their own resolution to effect in January 2019. So you couldn't buy any type of tobacco product or vapes or anything in Finney County after January 2019. Now we are working with the Resist group right now to change school policy to eliminate out-of-school suspension on the first offense. Now you ask why are we doing this out-of-school suspension? Why are we trying to eliminate this? These kids did something wrong while they were in school. Well, I'll tell you why. If you send a kid home because he was vaping, what's he going to do? He's just going to go home and vape. So what we want to change the policy to state that it's going to be in-school suspension with education and cessation information to try to help them quit. We need to give them the tools that they can do something to help themselves. Next one. Okay, we also have a program called Resist, and this is a youth-led statewide tobacco prevention program created to fight against the tobacco's industry manipulative marketing tactics on Kansas youth. Local Resist chapters work to educate their peers and advocate for local policies that restrict youth access to tobacco products. And what we want you to do is maybe in your community, get a Resist chapter started in your school or perhaps even with your 4-H club. Resist are great because they can go and talk to young people versus when an adult goes, they don't so much listen, but they will listen to their peers. And these high school kids make a huge impression on little ones, middle school kids, and even younger. They'll listen to them because oftentimes in the Resist group, you're going to have some of your star athletes, your kids that are well known, and little ones want to be just like them. So it's a great way to get the word out about what Big Tobacco is trying to do, that they are trying to trick you, to make you be the guinea pig. And we always tell the kids, don't be the guinea pig, be the goat, be the greatest of all time. Next slide, please. Okay, here are some of our kids doing a talk at some of the middle schools. And the great thing about this is what we have found, that these kids that are involved in this resist group is that they've learned how to public speak and how to speak up for themselves. And actually legislators listen to them better than they would listen to me. So it's great. Next slide. Hey, here we are at St. Catherine at our coalition meeting, and we had our resist group and a SRO and metal community come together and do a panel discussion at our coalition meeting. And we had the panel sit there and take questions, and they did a great job and worked real well in our community. Next slide. And here's some information on cessation services available and resources. And let me talk about My Life, My Quit. That is designed specifically for youth 17 and under. So the folks there that are talking on the phone to them or texting them or emailing them are people that are trained to work with youth and how to talk to them about cessation. Then if you're 18 and older, the kansasquitline.org, or you can also text Juul to 88709 for cessation. The great thing about My Life, My Quit, there's also resources there for educators, teachers, anybody that wants any information that they want to put out there, perhaps at your 4-H club or whatever, that you can use. And they have posters available to talk about vaping. We also utilize a student education program with our resist group. So when they do go out and speak, they know what they're talking about. And that program is called takingdowntobacco.com. We have put in place a few curriculum here in Garden City called Catch My Breath. That is a free curriculum. It is SAMHSA approved. It's a great curriculum. It goes from 2nd grade all the way up to 12th grade. And then KDHE and the Kansas Department of Education have a project going on called Echo Project on Vaping. And that's gone on for 2 years now. And I think this is the 3rd year of it. And it's a great program because what they do is each school has to set up a team to work on the vaping problems that they've got going on. That usually starts in August, and I'm sure there's some schools out there that want to get involved in that. They just need to contact KDHE or Kansas Department of Education, and they can get hooked up for that next session that they have coming probably next year. Then there's Kansas Vape Free Schools Toolkit. It has a lot of information. And obviously the KDHE Tobacco Prevention Program, which that's where the CDRR program comes out of. And then the state resisttobacco.org is the program that I've been talking about for resist chapters. There's also my contact information. I am more than willing to go anywhere and speak on tobacco. I speak very well with young people, probably better than I do adults. I think it's because maybe I'm more like them than I am the adults. So anyway, that is my talk for today, and I'm open now for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Donna. Does anyone have any questions for her? Donna, can you share a little bit more about your resist chapter, maybe some of the outcomes or successes your students have had?
Okay, well, the first thing that we did, and we weren't called a resist chapter yet, but it was a group of students. We went together and got Tobacco 21 passed in Garden City. And the way we did it, I provided them the education. I made them do the work because I wanted it to be their project. I didn't want me to force feed them and make them, do what I wanted them to do. So I gave them suggestions and they ran with it. And then what they did first was they went out and got public support by getting sponsorships for passing an ordinance. And they weren't looking for money. They just wanted people to sign off that they agreed that this would be a good thing that raised the age of tobacco use to 21. After they did that, then they went to the city commission and showed them what they had and all the support that they had, and showed them a potential ordinance that they could possibly use. And then that went before the public for a while. They kind of let it, let the public know we were trying to get that passed. And then they went back again and asked for a vote on it, and it passed 5-0. That was the first thing that they did. Then my kids have done park scans. They've gone into some of our parks and picked up cigarette butts, and then they flagged it, and then they took pictures of that. Then they also took a whole jar of all the cigarette butts that they had and took it to the city commission and showed them, this is what we found in your park the day after an Easter egg hunt. That made a huge impression. And we told them, we're not trying to tell you that your park's dirty. We're trying to tell you that this is what's happening because we're allowing people to smoke in our parks. And so that passed through pretty quickly, along with tobacco-free playgrounds. We got that passed too. And that was easy. Tobacco-free playgrounds, everybody knows that we shouldn't be smoking around children. So that wasn't hard to do. Plus, with tobacco remnants left around in a playground, little ones pick up stuff and put it in their mouth. So that was a no-brainer. Then my kids have also this past year did a video that was played during mentoring period about vaping and the dangers and that sort of thing. And then they placed in the school a vape drop box where kids could drop off their vapes and not get in trouble. And we had to have the SRO in our video to state that, so the kids knew that this is real. We're not trying to trick you to get caught vaping in school or having a vape on you. And I'm going to show you what came out of that right here. I don't know if you can see this real well, but this is what came out of the box. Most of those had juice in them, so they were dropping them off. On the front of that vape box was a QR code that the kid could download quickly and get cessation information and where to contact. So that's what they did just recently, and they are getting ready to do some presentations at some of the middle schools here this October.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Donna. We have another question. If your slides will be available for them to educate their own students on the outcomes of vaping.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can share these. No problem.
Perfect. We also shared a few links in the chat. The Takedown Tobacco is a really great resource if you're educating students. It's a great presentation and seems very impactful. It looks like Liz, do you have a question?
Yeah, where did the teenagers get the vapes?
Where do they get them?
Or selling them to them, or
well, when it first started, because 18-year-olds were allowed to purchase them, what was happening was the 18-year-olds were buying them and then they were selling them in the schools. That's what first happened. But now that Tobacco 21 is across the nation, we hope that stops. But some parents actually give them to them because they don't understand how dangerous they are. They don't understand that the kids can get addicted so much quicker because one pod is equal to a whole pack of cigarettes. So there's much more nicotine in them. And so they get addicted much quicker, and it's much harder to get off of them.
Thank you.
Is there any additional questions?
All right, we want to thank Donna for taking time to present this wonderful program. I learned a lot, and it's the second time I've heard it. So thank you, Donna. We appreciate all your valuable information. We do want to encourage you all to complete our survey by using the QR code on the screen. This will also be sent to you right after and will be available on the Living Well website. Feel free to provide comments and suggestions. If you would like more information or additional resources, please reach out to your local extension agent. If you are not sure where your local office is, you can find it going on the ksre.kstate.edu. You will be able to hover over your county and find the location of your local office. We hope you join us next month, November 1st, for the session, Teen Stress and Anxiety, How Worried Do Parents Need to Be? Our presenters will be Christine Perez and Aaron Tyne. This program will examine the current state of teen mental health and decipher for parents what is normal teen stress versus when professional help may be needed. Again, we thank you and have a great rest of your afternoon.